Hey, Dave Rother here, and in this video I'm going to show you what the Leaning Tower of Pisa, as are quite beautifully illustrated behind me, has to do with growing your business. Now, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, you probably are already aware of. It's a tower in Italy that was built, and for whatever reason, structurally it dipped on one side, and what was created was a tower which has a slight lean to it, and ergo has become a huge landmark. Now, interestingly, Mussolini actually found this a great embarrassment to the Italian people, and he wanted to fix it. He put a lot of work into fixing it. They pumped concrete underneath one side and tried to essentially bring the tower back up on one tilt. This is all going to become very relevant in a second. He wanted to straighten up the tower. He found it embarrassing that the tower leant over to one side. But fortunately, his efforts only actually served to make the lean worse. So it actually became more of a tilt and became more prominent. So it didn't work whatsoever. Shortly after that, in fact, the tower should have been destroyed, because in the Second World War it was used as a stronghold for the Italian army, but the American troops coming through were so awestruck with the lean of the tower that they left it be. Unfortunately, so we now have quite a remarkable landmark. So, what is otherwise a completely sort of ununique town in the north of Italy. By ununique, is still quite beautiful, but just like any other town, why is this tower draws so much attention and draws so many visitors to it every year and is one of Italy's greatest landmarks? It's because it's completely unique. And it's so fortunate that Mussolini didn't fix it, because in reality, what could be perceived as embarrassing, what could be perceived as an error, something which is wrong, something which is an embarrassment to the Italian people, is in fact something which now brings millions and millions and millions of dollars or euros in revenue through to Pisa and through into Italy every single year. So this uniqueness, this unusuality, is something that you should start to think about in your business, how you can create something which is eye-catching, which isn't necessarily quite right, something which captures people's attention, which is oftentimes a lot more powerful than creating something which is correct, on form, and I'm not just talking about factually incorrect, but which is what people expect to see. How can you create something which is unique enough and remarkable enough for people to talk about and people to remark upon? And the next really important point about that, by creating something that's unique and having something that's unique in terms of this, if we go back to the example of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, then what we get is lots of people taking this rather cliched photo now of standing in front of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, somewhere around about here, and acting as if they're leaning it up. Now, this is a huge thing now, and this basically, whenever somebody does this and posts it online, then it creates social proof. So people see that it's a popular place to go. People see their friends going and doing this. When they're in Italy and deciding what to do, what should we go and do, they've seen time and time again their friends having their photo taken in front of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and it becomes kind of a bucket list item, right? Now, this is really an interesting psychological thing in and of itself, and it's what's also sometimes referred to as behavioral residue. So if people were to visit Pisa and to take regular photos anywhere else, then they'd oftentimes just get ignored and scroll past, etc. But by creating so many photos of the same thing, the same tower, it's creating what's called behavioral residue. Now, behavioral residue is basically what's left over once people actually perform an action. So, for example, the photos which people see time and time again, that's behavioral residue. It's residue of their experience of going to Pisa that other people see. Another good example of behavioral residue is when you go and run a marathon and you get a t-shirt at the end which has the name of the marathon across it, right? When you go to a gig and see your favorite band, you get a t-shirt or a piece of merch with the band's name on it that you then go away and wear, and that's behavioral residue. It's basically a visual reminder and a visual cue to other people that that you have been somewhere and done something. So that's a really interesting side note. But the thing that I really wanted to focus on here in this video was the uniqueness of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and how you can use that same idea in your own business to create things which are visually remarkable and which people want to remark upon, and people want to engage with as something quite powerful to implement. You can do this in various different ways, but really the first step, again, it comes down to, if you think back to the 8 viral trigger points, then it comes back to the idea of uniqueness and remarkability. So what is it about your business that's unique, that's different, that's going to help you stand apart from the crowd? What is it that's going to be so unusual that people want to remark upon it and want to show it to their friends and share it with their friends? Again, with virality, we're talking about getting into a conversation between two people. There's billions of existing conversations going on all over the planet at any one time, and people are looking for stuff to talk about. People are looking for stuff to share with their friends, to remark upon. Often the most shared content on the web, as we discussed a few videos back when we were talking about the way content is distributed and the way people actually now share what they deem to be relevant rather than what is would formerly have been perceived to be valuable or of relevance to a large group of people. So if you remember that video a few days ago where we had the original style of distribution, where it relied on like 80% of people finding it relevant, and it was decided upon by the powers that be, the people who are in charge of the primetime networks, the people who are in charge of distributing content in newspapers and magazines. They decided what was spread, and therefore it was relatively benign. It was the same old information. Now, in reality, what gets shared on the web now is not what we would expect as, not necessarily what we would like. It's not the most intellectually valuable or stimulating content that gets shared. It's the stuff that's remarkable. It's the stuff that gets spoken about. Probably the most shared photo of anybody's trip to Italy would be the one with the Leaning Tower of Pisa, even though there's probably fantastic other photos of them in, less remarkable places. This is the one that stands out. This is the one that gets the attention. This is the one that provides an opportunity for people to remark upon, to be amusing with, to have their own say, to reproduce that behavioral residue of that photo that everybody else has taken. So there's another interesting thing, psychological thing in that as well. People do what other people do. There's a fantastic quote, and I can't quote it exactly, and I can't remember who said it, unfortunately, but it's something along the lines of, when people are left to do as they wish, then they generally do what other people do. So people copy people, monkey see, monkey do. It's the way we operate as human beings. So therefore, people seeing these photos, people seeing the now kind of quite cliched photos of pretending to hold up or be pushed over by the Leaning Tower of Pisa, then other people are going to go and do it. That's going to generate revenue for even this little sleepy town of, I don't know whether it's a sleepy town, but this otherwise unremarkable town called Pisa in the north of Italy. So hopefully that video is useful to you. Hopefully it starts to spark some ideas in your own brain about how to be unique and how not necessarily to always try to be uniform, how standing out, how being a purple cow, how being unusual can often work in your favor and actually capture the attention of lots more people. You don't need to be formal online, especially on social media. We often fall into this trap of wanted to copy how information has been distributed over the past 50 to 100 years, being very kind of formal and salesy and ordinary. But in reality, social media channels and advertising on social media, and even through mediums like email and messenger marketing, are becoming more and more conversational. So if you can start to think about how you're unique, how you stand out from the crowd, and how you become more conversational and less formal in your information distribution, then you're going to be a lot more successful online, and you're going to get a much better quality of customer that really resonates with you too.